Good evening. My name is Helen Anthony, Chair of the Committee on Finance. I'm calling to order our regular meeting Wednesday, May 29th at 5:31 p.m. Madam Clerk, if you would be so kind as to call the roll.
Chairwoman Anthony.
Present.
Vice Chairman Taylor is absent. Councilor Angela. Here. Councilwoman Graves is absent. Councilor Sanchez. We have 3 present and 2 absent. We have 1.
Thank you so much, and I would like to thank we have Michael Parisi here from the Solicitor's Office. Thank you for joining us. We have our auditor, Gina Costa here. Thank you for joining us. And of course, we have a wonderful clerk, Carissa and Donna Pollution. So thank you so much.
So noted.
And we have a lot of distinguished guests that are going to be speaking with us. And thank you all for coming. With that, I would like to take out of order. First of all, I'd like to deal with our appointments. So I'd like to take number 8 out of order. I'm asking for a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Anderson, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Madam Clerk, if you would please read item number 8.
Communication from His Honor the Mayor dated April 12th, 2024, informing the honorable members of the City Council that pursuant to Section 302B and 1103 of the Providence Home Rule Charter of 1980, as amended in Public Law, Chapter 45 to 50, Sections 1 through 31, passed in 1987, he is this day appointing Hamid Akinfolarian of 616 Charles Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02904, as a member of the Human Relations Commission for a term to expire on January 31st, 2025, and respectfully submits the same for your approval. Mr. Akinfolarian replaces Mr. Murray, who has resigned.
Mr. Akinfolarian, please come up to the table, and if you don't mind standing, we'll swear you in. You're going to be sitting right over there.
Please raise your right hand. Please swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Hamid Akinfolarian.
Please have a seat. We appreciate you joining us this evening, and very excited to talk to you about being appointed to the Human Relations Commission. If you would be so kind as to give us just a little bit about your background and also why it is that you would like to serve on this commission.
My name is Hamid Akinfolarian, as I stated earlier. I'm a Providence, Rhode Island native from South Providence. My parents immigrated by way of Nigeria. My whole life I've been in Providence. I've been fortunate enough to be able to travel around and see different areas of the world. My father, Morris Akinfolarian, he was a man of the community. He's still doing community work to this day in his retired days. Since I was a kid, I've been following in his footsteps as far as being a civil engineer, giving back to the community, working with the youth. For me, this is a chance to continue that work in a different aspect, in a different role. I feel like as an adult now, in your day-to-day life, you tend to get absorbed in it, whether it be your mortgage, your work. There's just a lot. This right here is one of those focuses where it's like, this is the chance to give back. This is the chance to listen to the things that are going, essentially like bringing it back home. So for me, it's bringing everything full centered. This is the community that shaped me. And I'm trying to give those same opportunities to those who are in the same community.
Wonderful, thank you. Questions from our committee members? Yes, please.
Thank you so much for your willingness to serve, and for all you do. Oh my goodness, like what a resume. Can you say specifically why the HRC as opposed to any of the other boards and commissions was of interest?
So this was one of the first boards that was presented to me. And I noticed there's not a large Muslim presence as far as representation within Rhode Island, and I know there's a large Muslim community. So for me, it was an easier fit that I felt like, if I dated back to my high school days, my senior thesis was the misconceptions of the Islamic religion. So I felt like for me, I could do the best service of showing the examples of what I feel like is the modern day Muslim, but modern day Islamic religion And then just give them a voice as far as what's going on in the community. I'm sure we're all aware everything that's happening now, through social media. It's kind of hard to not notice. So just shining a light on that, I think this committee gave me that best opportunity to fill that role. But I feel like other people can fill those other roles, that were available in other communities.
Thank you so much.
Well, I can see from your leadership roles and your activities that you have had. You know, a lot of leadership roles, but also you've been involved in so many different organizations, so. I think that we will bring a voice that's not present to the convention, so.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Motion's made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Anderson, all in favor? Aye, all opposed, so we will be recommending your approval to the council, and the council will vote on that, and thank you so much for your willingness to serve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you.
Okay, so thank you very much for Councilor Gonzalez. We have Councilor Harris joining us, so thank you so much for coming. We've taken, we're taking our appointments out of order. First, we just had an applicant for the Human Relations Commission. And now we are going to take, we are now going to take item number 9 out of order. Thank you. May I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Ingerboss, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? All opposed? We are not going to have a clerk read this. Apparently the candidate, Mr. Myrick, is not present this evening, so I'm going to ask for a motion to continue. Motion to continue.
Second.
Okay, motion to continue made by Councilor Ingerboss, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we will resume with our normal order. Madam Clerk, please read item number 1.
Resolution authorizing approval of the following contract award of an encumbrance by the Board of Contract and Supply in accordance with section 21.26(b)(4) of the Code of Ordinances, NRG Business Marketing LLC, $450,000, Department of Public Property.
Okay, who do we have to present on this matter this evening?
Well, Madam Chair, we have various directors this evening. Do you want everyone sworn in at once, or would you prefer to do them at the time of their?
I think we might, because we have so many people here, I think we'll take it item by item. We just won't read.
Okay, so, the Office of Sustainability is here. This item of the Finance Department will assist. So,
Okay.
Raise your right hand. You swear that now we get started that you have familiar about the truth, so please state your name and title.
David Sure, Energy Resiliency Administrator, Lawrence Mancini, Chief Financial.
Thank you both for coming. And this is, it says Department of Public Property. Is that?
But the matter before you, Madam Chair, is managed by the Division of Sustainability, so they fall under the property.
Okay, all right, please, proceed.
So, Madam Chair, this is a matter that required water contract approval. It was a change to an existing agreement between the city of Providence and a more or less a non-profit service group that the city engages with, but I don't leave the city accounts for energy supply and distribution. Mr. Revere is the city's energy manager. They can explain the matter further with respect to why it came before the board of contract, which of course energy purpose accounts and here before this committee this evening. So if you'd be kind enough, I will defer to Mr. Revere to have him explain why the matter is before you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Matter in front of us, actually, I'm not quite sure why it is in front of us. We paid the last few invoices to November to September, November to February. They were approved and submitted on one invoice to be paid, and now for the last 2 months being March and April are in front of me to the least month. this is a simple matter of paying a utility bill. We've been doing it for years and years with NRG. So at this point, I think it's just a matter of approving, the payments.
Can you explain, maybe so kind as to, just the cycle, how often you're paying, and this is the subject of an initial contract, please just remind me, I should know, but I wouldn't mind educating us on that.
Sure, we sign regularly contracts for two energy sources, electricity and gas. Electricity is always handled with on-bill payment, which makes life a whole lot easier. Constellation Energy is our electric supply contract. And they send their, all of their bills and all of their totals to Rhode Island Energy, and it all comes out in one nice neat package. NRG, on the other hand, prefers to bill us directly. They have no interaction with Rhode Island Energy. So we get two separate bills for the same month, for the same time. That has been the norm as far back as I can trace from 2015 through this past November. To a year before I left here, that November, paying NRG. We then went over to the city, went over to Rhode Island Energy for 1 year as the gas supplier. And we saw the on-bill financing occur. We found better terms. About 6 months ago, 8 months ago, signed a contract. And we reverted back to direct bill from NRG. And I believe that delay of that new contract taking place in November, and the shift from paying Rhode Island Energy for distribution and supply slowed down the process. We caught up over the winter, and now we have monthly bills submitted on a monthly basis for payment. Their process.
Okay, and is the $450 just a month or?
No, that's the full contract. At this point, it's a little bit beyond what I can project out based on the fact that we have a mild winter. But I believe the budget in the contract was estimated at about 450,000 based on the historic energy use.
And for what period? I'm sorry.
The 1 year period of the contract, which is roughly November 1st to October 31st, and 2023 to 2024.
Okay, questions? Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Thanks, Joel. Thank you, David. I'm sorry if you explained it, but can you clarify on what exactly the change of the current agreement is? That's what Mr. Vincent said. Beginning, he said that this is before us because there's a change.
No, I meant to say that, if I may, Madam Chair,
Yes, please.
that I talked to Mr. David, that, there was a brief period where the city returned back to Rhode Island Energy, and then we returned back to the NRG supplier. In that change of vendor provider may have caused a lag or a gap in proper timely billing and affection contract. Mr. Legere here this evening to represent that.
Thank you for that clarification. I guess what determines the change between between different utility companies?
What determines that?
Yeah.
Well, the supplier, if you do nothing, Rhode Island Energy will supply you with either gas or electricity. If you want to find a better price in the market, then you make that decision and you inform Rhode Island Energy as such. The city has always looked to save money by buying energy smartly. And occasionally history will show that we've moved around suppliers and brokers. So in the last year and a half, we've been leveraging our power options membership through the Rhode Island League and their programs, and using their suppliers and their pre-approved procurement methodology pretty much to our advantage, I might add. But that's what would determine change price.
Yes, Councilor Hempel.
Thank you. Thank you, David. I was learning so much from being in the room, and the room too. One quick question. So this is, it says in accordance with section 21-26B4, which basically puts things in front of us. If there's a 20% or more change in the original bid, was there a change in how much we were expecting to pay, or is 450 what we were expecting? But because of the, like, I'm just trying to figure out why it came to us. And this section is about if there was a change order.
The 450 was, budget, was a projection,
Okay.
and it's based on really the energy use the last 3 years, and how all these small budgets. This is the third usage the last 3 years, this is the average time their rate, they came out to 450.
And it might actually end up being lower.
It
because
will,
we-
I'm projecting it to be lower, there's been 16% less heating degree days of primary heating units this year. We're transitioning off of gas.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. Yeah.
So, those are reasons that are. Well,
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, the motion to approve is made by Councilor Ingersoll, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye. Aye, all opposed? Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming. Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, please read item number 2.
Resolution authorizing approval of the following contract award by the Board of Contract and Supply for rebate whistleblower hotline software 1-year contract with a 3-year option for renewal for consideration and discussion of how the process / software will interact with the municipal integrity officer and related processes. Whiskey Inc., $32,808, Office of Internal Auditor.
Thank you so much. I think we'll start by hearing from our internal auditor as to why she wishes this to be. And then what we'll do is, I know we have a municipal integrity officer here and others that may want to testify. So, and then we'll let you have a response, but please proceed, Madam Auditor.
Okay, thank you. So this is just, confidential anonymous software, that's built in, that people can call in if they have tips that they would like to report. Since I've been the auditor every year, the external auditors will ask me, do you have a anonymous tip line? And the answer every year is no, and it's always been because I only have 2 people, and this is a very large city. I went to a conference and they did a presentation. And if anyone has read the state towing audit, one of their recommendations was to get a whistleblowers hotline. To help with your auditing, because people are not forthcoming. They want to be anonymous. Not to say that I don't get tips now, but people would prefer to be anonymous. So I would hope that I would work with the municipal integrity officer, and it would be I think the municipal integrity officer maintains ethics for the city employees, but my job would be different as I do it, and they can do their presentation, but I think that I am looking to resolve the issue to make sure it doesn't happen again, and they're trying to prevent it. But if it does happen, we need to find out what internal controls are in place, what kind of action was done, was it fraud, was it abuse? But the ethics is keeping the standards, but the action that happened needs to be resolved, and I think that's the difference. But I'm happy to hear and happy to work with them.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Auditor. And you're specifically referring to the state towing, the state towing.
State towing, yes, that was a forensic audit, and that was one of their recommendations.
And then you also said there was an external auditor.
Every single year, that is a question by the external audits.
And just so I can be clear, so when someone's anonymous, so the tip comes in through the hotline in an anonymous, and then what would you do with that tip? Do you act on every tip you receive, or how do you figure out what you're acting on, what you're not?
I would reply to the person first. I would have to see what it leads to. The reason I did it for 1 year with 3-year option, because it might not prove to be anything. It might be useless. It might be too overwhelming for my 3-person department. So that's why I did it for 1 year. So.
I think we will hear from, is that, you finished?
Yes.
Is there any question of the auditor at this point?
So,
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Councilor Sanchez.
thank you, auditor. My question, I think you answered is, so you wouldn't need any additional staff members? You would try to do this in-house the first year?
Yes,
The
Absolutely.
three staff members? Fair enough.
Yes, please, Counselor Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Madam Auditor. And so is this would be an annual fee?
no, and that's a 4-year fee.
Oh, that's a 4-year.
That's a 4-year fee, yes. I asked for no raises in my budget, so that covers
4 years.
more than, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And, did we bid this out or did we find this?
I went through for the contractor,
the whole
I
process.
absolutely did, yes.
Okay, I'm just reminded of the question.
And if you notice, this does not fall into the parameters of that.
Okay, I'd like to recognize that we have the pro temp joining us. Thank you very much for on, Okay, all right, and we'll have where did everyone go? Oh, yes. Yes, the integrity officer, the municipal integrity officer, I appreciate you coming. And we also have. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you all.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, oh, Madam Clerk, I'm sorry, we went. Do you want one to?
No, the both of them will have to.
Yes, when it's swear, and then, yes.
I'll wait
So
till she's
just,
done.
having a little handout, and we are gonna mark this, but first I'll swear them in.
Might not have enough.
Oh, you have to have one.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then the Madam Clerk.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm Rosa.
Pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, so we're gonna swear you in, and then we're gonna mark this as an exhibit.
Please raise your right hand.
Both of you, yeah.
You swear on the fancy of perjury that I testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I will anticipate your names and your titles.
Rosa Arias Perry, Municipal Integrity Officer for the City of Providence.
Leonardo Felix, Ethics Education Coordinator.
Thank you so much for coming. It's very nice seeing you. We're going to go ahead and mark this as exhibit number 1.
One is fine.
Okay, they have a motion.
Okay.
Oh, all right, motion made by Councilor Amberlaw, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye, all opposed. Okay, we're gonna turn it over to, attorney. There.
Good evening, thank you all for having me. Thank you, Madam Chair, thank you, members of the Finance Committee, for allowing me and inviting me to explain the role of the Municipal Integrity Officer, also known as the MIO. By way of introduction and background, as I mentioned, my name is Attorney Rose. I am Attorney Rosa Arias Perry. I'm a licensed attorney in the state of Massachusetts. And I am a first-generation Dominican American. I am bilingual and fluent in Spanish. I have lived in the city of Providence since 1996. I am a proud graduate of Hope High School, URI, Roger Williams University School of Law, and I have served as the City Municipal Integrity Officer since 2019. Before that role, I was the Ethics Education Coordinator, a position now held by my fabulous colleague, Attorney Leonella Felix, who I'll allow to introduce herself.
Thank you, Rosa. Hi, everyone. I'm Leonella Felix. I go by Leo. I use she, her pronoun. And I've been in the city since 2018. Prior to this role, I served as the Deputy Director of Policy under the Rosa administration. And in this capacity, I assist Rosa in providing all training for municipal employees, as well as providing confidential advice to all those that that's the answer to your question.
So under the city ordinance passed by City Council in 2015, the mission of the Municipal Integrity Officer, and by extension, the Ethics Education Coordinator, is to encourage all city employees and officials to adhere to the highest standards of ethics, to act ethically. I created a packet for your review, which outlines the city ordinance and specifically section 17-33 outlines my role in its entirety as the MIO. I am responsible for educating city officials and employees on the city and the state's code of ethics. I'm responsible for counseling employees who are faced with potential ethical questions, concerns. I also maintain a liaison with both ethics commissions and appropriate individuals, entities, and city departments. One of my responsibilities is to provide timely, confidential, informal advisory opinions regarding city employees and officials' obligations under the city and the state's code. In doing so, I conduct in-depth legal research to find applicable laws, regulations, precedents, and any case law that aid me in providing a complete legal analysis. Some examples of advisory opinions that I have provided include whether a situation constitutes a conflict of interest, or, for example, whether you can accept travel expenses like airfare and hotel stays paid for by private organizations or other government agencies to attend work-related events like conferences. But today I'd like to focus on my responsibility of managing the city's ethics hotline and also the ethics online inquiry forms that are provided on our city's website in the ethics webpage. City Council established a toll-free confidential telephone hotline whereby members of the general public can report any instances of misconduct. The code grants me the authority to manage the hotline, and I've been doing so since 2018 when I joined the city. The hotline operates on a 24/7 basis, allowing the public to leave voicemails or send emails to a secure inbox managed solely by me. A lot of times when I receive messages, they are anonymous. I respond to the complaints within 1 to 2 business days, depending on, every case is different. It depends on the extent of the case. But 1 to 2 business days for me to respond to the complainant, I gather facts, I gather additional information, I schedule in-person meetings if needed. Every case is different, even if it may appear to have the same facts. Every case is different, so I investigate the reported incident, I make a record of the area or department of concern, and I initiate any necessary follow-up to obtain additional facts or any evidence that I may need to make a complete legal analysis. If a complaint does not pertain to the code of ethics, then I work directly with individual department directors to address the concerns raised. Some of the areas of concerns that I have addressed in the past, for example, include discrimination allegations of race, gender, age discriminations, or other forms of discriminations by city employees or officials. Allegations of misuse of public funds or city funds that are being used for personal expenses or inappropriate purposes. Any allegations of that sort come to me, as well as several other examples that I'm willing to provide if necessary. Because of my background, my legal background, I'm uniquely positioned to analyze complaints. I analyze any tips, any concerns that may come with the understanding of the applicable laws, statutes, and precedents. On top of that, I add an extra layer of confidentiality established by the attorney-client privilege, as well as the ordinance, which allows folks to be open and transparent and honest with me. Communication with me as the MIO is not subject to the APRA because it's privileged information. And that is a law established by ordinance. Our ordinance also lays out the hotline, which falls directly under my purview and which I've been managing. In your packets, I have included a copy of the code of ordinance with, my position outlined. A copy of, the ethics hotline and the number and, the ethics hotline flyer, which is also on the city's website. I also, in your packet under Appendix C, I have outlined additional methods of reporting complaints. Aside from the ethics hotline and the ethics online inquiry form, the city of Providence has 3 additional means by which constituents and members of the general public may report concerns or incidents of wrongdoing. If you look at tab C on page 15, those include Providence PDD 311, as well as the HR hotline, which is managed by the Human Resources Department. And it's another confidential platform for employees and constituents to voice workplace concerns or any concerns involving a public servant of the city of Providence. We also have the Providence Police Civilian Complaint Form, which is available online as well as at the police department. So adding a duplicative hotline will only create confusion. When I receive phone calls or I receive inquiries online, folks don't know where to report incidents. I provide guidance and aid if a matter doesn't fall within something I can assist. But given the existing hotlines, adding an additional one is truly a waste of funds. I welcome any questions.
I'm gonna kick it off, one question I have right off the bat. Is if there's an allegation to your hotline that there is a financial, if the public funds have been used inappropriately, how do you evaluate that?
So I schedule meetings with both the complainant or the reporter, the individual who's making the allegation, as well as the respondent. This would be the person who is allegedly misusing funds. Under the state code of ethics, that is not a subject that is covered, it's addressed under the city's code. And so I gather any necessary information or evidence to make a complete investigation. And depending on the department, I will also meet with the department head or any superiors to assess the facts. And then I make a legal analysis depending, connecting it to the law. And I'll provide a response.
Okay. I'm gonna open it up, Counselor Vanderbilt.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, attorney, for your very thorough presentation. I appreciate it. For the process you've outlined, can like city staff report ethics violations against other city staff, or is it just for members of the general public? So like if
I have received,
ethics bad.
yeah, keeping confidentiality, I have received complaints from city staff towards their superior or department heads. I have received complaints from the department directors. I have received complaints from constituents, voters, and members of the general public.
Okay, so it's for
Anybody, yes.
Yes, please.
The other one is, so for it to be anonymous, would people need to call? Like, I know 311 and make an account, so people don't really feel like that's super anonymous to do an account. But like, with people can leave you a phone message, and that's like the primary way for it to be anonymous.
When an inquiry or concern comes in anonymously, it usually comes in the form of email. And the complainant does not leave any identifying information, like a name, address. They create a fake
I like a fake email or
Email.
something, okay. Well, I was like, my email's Sue.Interpol, you know, you'd be like.
they create a very big email. I respond back and forth via email. And I also make myself available for any meetings. I let them know that this is confidential and
Okay, so they can, okay.
If I can add as well, in terms of the hotline, folks can be, usually won't be able to find people's phone numbers, but they'll leave their phone number, maybe not name, so that we can call them back. Without leaving any identifiable information. For example, if I would leave a message, oh, this Leo, this is my phone number. And I.
And then, just the final thing was, I tried scanning the QR code on the flyer and it didn't work. So just as a heads up, I don't know if it just didn't copyright when you put it in the packet, when you try and scan it, but it's just as a heads up.
Thank you.
Hey, Councilor Sanchez.
And gentlemen, thank you, folks from the law department. My first question is, how many phone calls has this hotline received in the past 12 months?
30.
30?
Well, this is between the hotline and the online inquiry forms. In the past year, there have been 30 concerns that I have addressed.
30, thank you. About how many of those would you say are on the actual hotline, compared to the online inquiry form? Rough estimate.
An estimate, I would say about a dozen.
That's it. My next question is, how is this hotline advertised? So I'll be honest, maybe it's just me, but I've never heard of this being in place. So how is it advertised to
It is
city
on the-
employees and the public in general?
Yeah, it's on the city's website. Both the hotline, and the ethics unit in general has a webpage on the city's website. And when we conduct trainings to city employees and officials, we, inform them of all the areas that a member of the public can report a concern, about you. And, on the city's website, and then I did notice in this building, I do need to make it more visible. So I will be posting the ethics hotline flyer. In both English and Spanish for our Spanish speaking constituents and members of the public.
And if I may, I'm really low on that page, so the materials, because once they administration page, we took down all of the flyers that we had, we did some bulletins, so it's just been taking slow to put everything back up with the new ones, and we just have to have the previous administrative information. So thank you for that, so I think.
Yes, please.
I'm not sure if you guys are able to answer this, but is there a yearly subscription or cost that we're paying right now currently for this type of equipment, software? Obviously, I know we're paying for your guys' time and energy, but do you pay for like a software for your hotline or anything like that?
That's a good question for the telecommunications department. I know that when I receive a phone call through the hotline, it's connected directly to my line at the law department, but it's not the same number. The hotline has its own individual number.
And then, just following up on the chairwoman's question regarding if there was a question of financial misuse. Is there a potential conflict when someone were to call to report possible misuse of funds, and then the first thing that you do is meet with that individual and said department? Me personally, if that were to happen, and me doing that type of situation, that would definitely deter me from ever reporting to that. Is there maybe like that example you gave wasn't like specific, but is there like, I'm just trying to think, because if we report someone from the public, one of our city employees reports some misuse of funds, that should be independently investigated as much as possible, in my opinion.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that was a question, comment, I don't, however you want to respond is.
Well, as the municipal integrity officer, I am a neutral party. I am not the ethics commission. So when there is an allegation of misuse of public funds, I am authorized under the ordinance to investigate the matter. And in order for me to gather the appropriate facts and be able to apply the law, I need information. So I make them, this is the process that I have been, viewing. There has been, no, I guess, what can I say, if it ain't fixed, if it ain't broken, to fix it. You know, I haven't had any issues, but I do need to, I do need to, collect all of the facts and the evidence. And the only way I can do that is by talking to people. I do let them know, that what is disclosed to me as a municipal integrity officer and as an attorney is confidential. And so many times when I am engaging with multiple parties, they are not aware and they do not know what has been said to me.
Can I ask you a clarifying question, just, are you saying in terms of communicating individually with members, because it seems like you're asking in terms of meeting with all parties together?
Oh, we don't have a meeting all together, no, I meet individually with
Sorry.
any.
Yeah, because that was the way I understood your answer, Rosa, is that you would bring folks together.
No, sorry, I meet individually on a one-to-one basis to obtain any additional information or evidence that I need to make a thorough legal analysis.
So I guess my follow-up question would be if, knowing that's the process, say, I'm gonna say Parks Department, because I know Parks Department would never misuse funds. Say Parks Department director leadership, got a complaint on them misusing funds through, entry-level worker employee. Would you tell that department, director and leadership that you're asking these questions because, or would you just ask those questions?
I'm sorry.
So would you,
Clarify.
yeah, so when you're following up with said department, would you say, I'm meeting with you because someone has reported this complaint, or would you just take that independent lane and be like, I'm just want to review X, Y, and Z? Is that not making sense to me?
Yeah, like,
Sorry.
No, I think what I'm hearing is like, would you say, like, in this hypothetical example, which never happened, this might be never really this, would you say, you know, Superintendent Nielsen, I'd like to talk with you about a complaint I received about the money you spent at Village Taylor Park because I received a complaint, or would you say, I'd love to see the money we spent at Village Taylor Park campus with those finances and just leave out that someone's complaining.
Yeah, I mean, the entire point of keeping a matter confidential is to safeguard certain information. If I'm meeting with a department head, and correct me if I'm getting the question wrong, but if I'm meeting with a department head in regards to an allegation that's been made that they're misusing funds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I would try to gather as much information as I can without letting them know that someone has raised this concern, because if if I met with an individual and I said that their staff has alleged that they are misusing funds, that there is all types of red flags with that. So I just try to ask questions in a way where it doesn't alert the department head of the allegation, which may be false.
Yeah. Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay, yes, for that.
Thank you for your presentation. Just a couple of questions in reference of, who do you actually report to? Who oversees your work?
So under the ordinance, I am an independent, officer. I work in liaison. I have a very close relationship with the state's ethics commission, the Providence Ethics Commission. And I work in liaison with, the human resources director, the city solicitor. And under the ordinance, there isn't, I don't report to anybody under the ordinance.
So the ordinance is clear in essence that you're a standalone entity.
Yes,
And in
the
essence-
ordinance, yes,
That in essence, every year, to a certain degree, you provide a report to the administration and the city council, or just the city council itself?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
So, just to get clarification in the sense of understanding of it, I guess. One is that, under the charter, does it say that every year you have to provide a report to the city council or the mayor or anyone at all? And
No,
Okay.
under the charter, no, I do not provide reports, and I'm not obligated to provide reports to anybody. Under the ordinance.
It's just clarification, it's not charter, charter, she's ordinance, she's
It's
ordinance.
the ordinance by the city council.
Yes,
Thank you for clarifying that.
and, yeah, right, helps out. Just understanding of how this. So in essence, obviously, as you say, you stand alone, you work with other partners. Complaints come from all departments from the city. Whether it's Providence Police, whether it's Providence Schools, City Council, wherever you handle the matter.
Yes,
And you have that authority by ordinance to investigate
that is
without
correct.
whether they're frivolous or not, because you pursue the allegations.
Yes,
And so I'm just trying to understand the sense of, obviously, we entrust your judgment and your professionalism and so forth, and integrity to determine what, if the allegations are frivolous or not. But do you also have some accountability with the ethics? What are the chain of information in the sense that when you open an investigation, who else do you work with? Just both of you or other entities of law enforcement or ethics commission?
do you mean when a complaint is received?
Yeah, we are
So
phone,
if
email, yeah.
okay, if a complaint is received by the ethics commission,
No, by you.
okay, the complaint comes to me at the law department, it must be. I'm sorry, are you referring to an ethics inquiry online or an ethics complaint that the complainant wants to file the complaint with the ethics commission?
I'm just trying to understand this sense of sort of the chain of information and investigation and who else you're accountable to. And then the other aspect of this question I'm going to get to is that what are the software, and you indicate that that this could be a duplicative software or process through the auditor, and that it's, can you be more specific in why is it that you feel that this is duplicative?
If you turn to tab C in your packet. The city of Providence offers 5 ways for employees and residents to address concerns. These are, 2 of these are hotlines. Adding a 3rd hotline would be duplicative and confusing. When I receive calls on the hotline, through the ethics hotline, many times people have, members of the public or constituents have let me know that they do not know who to report to, and they come to me because I'm the ethics advisor for the city, and they feel that this is the appropriate avenue. This involves every subject matter, because ethics is embedded in everything we do as government employees. When they talk to me, I let them know, this is confidential. I let them know I will need additional information, and I may need to speak to the city staff or the city official whom you are addressing here. And so adding a whistleblower hotline, when we already have an ethics hotline, an ethics online inquiry form, a PVD 311, a human resource hotline, and a Providence Police Civilian Complaint Form. If we add number 6, whistleblower hotline, how will this, I'm asking you now, how will it be different?
I would say that I cannot answer that, but I would say that at least at least from the perspective of the city, we have numerous ways of people to bring a complaint. This is more from the auditor perspective, that is charter driven and has an accountability to us in essence, a city council. And likewise, I was just more interested in understanding also how do you handle the chain of information as an investigation, right? And that's not clear as much, but it's fine. We could go on in this process. I just wanted to just get to that point of the internal order, as you indicated, as is that it's duplicative and so forth. And I then the chair wanted to hear also from the auditor.
If I can add just
Some of
one
that.
point of answer with your inquiry.
Okay, yes, please.
And can you speak up a little?
Oh, absolutely. Sorry, my throat's a little bit, itchy, I apologize. But yeah, to go into your point in terms of chain of command and how it works in general too, it's also is, as a MIO and as well as the ethics education coordinator, we coordinate with the complainant and all to be able to do this investigation that then gets sent to the ethics commission for a decision on how to handle. So in terms of chain of command, that's another method in terms of accountability. So it goes through the Providence Ethics Commission. They then under the code have the authority of what have different steps that they can take for accountability in terms of processing that complaint. If it's found to be frivolous, if it's found to have merit. And then on top of that is also they can refer it either to HR, let's say if it's a matter that HR needs to get involved, it's a criminal matter that the solicitor needs to prosecute, or it's something that needs to be sent over to the state ethics commission as well. So those are other ways in terms of, apart from the investigation itself, how it goes through the process to ensure accountability of the complaint if it has merit. So hopefully that, I think,
And you also have somebody. Yes, Councilor.
Quick follow-up on that, because that will be one of my next questions. Have, in your guys' time here, have we seen a complaint that any of your methods of complaints increase to the level of a state ethic complaint or prosecution of the state?
During my tenure as MIO.
Okay, all right. Oh, yes, yes, of course. Councilor, yes.
I just said to respond to the Tim's question or more. I think what he was getting at is what do they do with the information and like what would the difference be? And I think that the bug approached me only as I started talking.
Yeah.
I think that the distinction that Rose is explaining is that as a friend,
Talking.
is that the ordinance lays out what the investigatory power is and what the duties are with the information. Which is pretty clearly, it was enacted by the council. And the distinction would be what would happen with the alternative of the new software, other than reporting to the council, what would the where would that go? And what would the responsibilities of that information entail? How could that be handled? Because it doesn't seem like the ordinance addresses that at all.
Thank you. Okay, yes, pro tem and then, Council Randall.
I know that the auditor had her hand up, but I
Oh,
wanted to hear,
well,
I wanted to hear from her.
I am going to finish
Hopefully
the
she remembers.
questions,
Okay, thank you.
and then I'm gonna let the auditor respond to everything you've heard. Well, thank you, I appreciate that. Yes.
I have two questions. One is for you two, and then the other one's for the auditor. If that's okay,
We're
You know,
gonna
she gets there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say it in my letter. One is just, can we have a copy of this flyer? Via email, when it's ready, because I think a number of us do newsletters and things like that, and to the extent that we need additional folks sharing it, I think we can do some of that, right? We have to do some of that. And then the second question, which I'll say out loud, the auditor is, if we've had, and I forget which audits that said this, but if we've heard from outside parties that they want us to have a whistleblower hotline, did they know that we had existing processes, or did they just think these were insufficient?
I don't think it's the same.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna let the auditor respond to all of it. I think right now we have questions answered. We may have more questions to you, but I would like to give the auditor time to respond to your presentation. Thank you.
Just for clarification, I think if there were 10 lines for employees, constituents, vendors to call in to make a complaint, I think they should have 10 lines. I don't think it matters. As long as the city knows to stay in their lane. And there will be another hotline because Para has a hotline now. Because IT reached out to me to say, would you check out their software, see if it's a good fit for you? And it just wasn't, because it was so police oriented that it didn't fit. So Para didn't get the same drilling that the internal auditor is, and I just find that very surprising because, I don't know. And the investigative authority is by the Ethics Commission. The duties of the MIO is not investigative. That's the commission. So I don't know who has the authority to investigate, but I know the auditor has access to all of the records. So I don't know how they're even getting records to anything. So that is kind of my duty. I have access to the systems, the software. That's my job. And the scenario that was presented, I would not tell the director of any department that there's mishappenings in their department because they might be a part of it. You don't know that. You need to investigate it first.
I think I'm more interested, Madam Auditor, to hear, from you, what it is that why is what you're proposing not to play there? And also, I think that I just want to hear your opinion and where you think you fit in with the charter. Your responsibilities under the charter, because and also who would you be reporting to? I mean, so those are kind of
I am appointed by the council.
Yeah.
And I do written reports to the council. Whenever I do a report, it comes to the council. I've done state towing, that hasn't been heard yet. I have done municipal court, that hasn't been done yet, and there are many findings in there. One of them is to get a whistleblower hotline.
I'm just gonna say, and how would the anonymous information, how would that be protected once you collect your information?
The way the software works with me is that I can talk back and forth with this person and they're giving a symbol. It's not a name, it's a symbol. And we talk back and forth the whole time. They can upload documents to me. They can give me pictures, they can send me anything, and we talk back and forth. No, do I depend on the law department? Absolutely. Do I, if it's an HR issue, I send it off to HR. I do not want harassment. I don't want bullying. That all goes to HR. I am going to stay in my lane. This is my lane. I do investigations for audits, for fraud. That's what I do. I don't do ethics. That's an ethical issue. It's completely different. I don't understand why it's not being seen that way. I do audits. I'm doing financial compliance, fraud, abuse. I may not get any calls. And again, that is why I did the 1 year.
Okay, and then just a, follow up, why would that not be happening already? Why are people not calling you with?
Who said they're not? We have a legal suit going on right now.
Yeah,
We got state tone, I mean, there's audits going on.
yes, Counselor themselves.
So I'm curious, so if you had, let's say, a financial issue that you were investigating, would you have to reach out to the auditor to receive that information?
Yes, it depends on the area, and if it falls under a financial issue. And if the area of concern or complaint falls under the auditor's purview, then I'd have to investigate the matter. Converse with the auditor.
Got it. And so in that case, how would you stipulate the roles and responsibilities for your respective offices?
I think we would work together personally. I think that it's the same, we're doing the same thing. The ethics standards that have to be high. Once the ethics drop, obviously there's potential that fraud's going to happen, abuse is going to happen. If it does happen and it's found or somebody makes a claim, gets investigated, I think that's when I go in, I investigate the claim. Now, that's
Okay.
how I see it too.
Counselor Anderson.
Just one kind of question, being a part-time auditor, is when folks report to you, concerns to you, is it mostly like internal, so it'd be like, I would be reporting, hey, I think something weird happened with Chile, and here's why, or do we also get stuff from the public? Is that another differentiation, like there's more public and this is more?
It would be public, employee, vendor, and something to everyone.
Okay.
I just want to say that, in essence, obviously, that is good. I think that is a good thing to have different venues, particularly when it comes to finances. If people feel that if they identify that it's a finance issue, then it's a finance issue. And that's all.
Thank you. Yes, Counselor Gonzalez.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really think it matters where it comes from, as long as it comes in somewhere, and it sounds like you'll work collaboratively to,
We're all
address
for
the
the
issue.
taxpayers. That's how I look at my role. We're all here to support the taxpayers. So,
Okay, all right. Any other questions, comments? It is a hard issue, so Counselor Sanchez,
I would mention,
of course.
in the sense of being fiscally conservative that I am, I think the cost on this software is fair. I think we should try it out for a year and see how it goes. I think it would be appropriate, Madam Auditor, if you came back with us in a month or two with some policies and procedures on how you're gonna use the software. So I mean, with that being said, I would make a motion to approve.
I already have all the policies. What I needed from the software company was I needed the phone numbers. I needed all of the other stuff to finish the policy and procedures before I put that forward. I actually have that all set up already, just waiting for the final approval.
If that gets shared with us, I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Sanchez, seconded by Counselor Anderson. All in favor? All opposed? Nay. Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Everyone, I appreciate you coming. Thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I missed something. I want to make sure that. Motion carried.
All right. Okay, Madam Clerk, please read item number 3.
Resolution authorizing approval of the following contract award by the Board of Contract and Supply in accordance with section 21-26 B2 of the Code of Ordinances. Interaction Insight Corporation, $23,772, Department of Telecommunications.
Okay, what do we have here this evening? How are you? Swear you in?
Good.
Thank you for coming.
Raise your right hand. Parents is going to get surgery that has no years of you. This is. Now, please state your name for the record.
John Leonfield, Director of Telecommunications. Good evening.
Good evening, nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
All right, well, we have, please proceed.
So this is a contract for our Eventide, which is our recording system for our public safety telephones. The only phones that are recorded in the city are the police and fire calls that come into our building. No other calls are recorded. This company handles all of that. This company is a sole source vendor. The reason being they're one of only two companies in the Northeast region that can handle, if there is a problem, they can respond. They promise to respond within 2 hours. They have on-site technicians for us within 24 hours. They have a massive crew that is able to help us remotely or on-site. It is going through the bid process. The reason we had to go a little higher this year is our old system starting to fail. And what happens with that is the law department, Attorney General's office, any APRA requests that we get that come to us, we have to hold that information for 3 years. And the old system is starting to fail. And what happens is if we get a request from the law department, for example, for a case that they are investigating, and we don't have that information for 3 years, we can be in violation. So this is why we had to go with new equipment, and this company was the best company to go with.
Any questions? Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Director. Is this a new software then, a different?
It's the same company we had. It used to be called Nice Recording Systems. They were brought up by Eventide. And in 2018, when we moved over to Cox Communications, they were a partner with Cox. So we brought them in at the time, and they were highly recommended at the time. We brought them in, they were great. Unfortunately, after 5 years, you know, if you have a computer, you know, something starts to fail in it. This system wasn't designed really for a 3-year memory. This new system is. This new system is very robust, and it's able to handle 3 years of recordings.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Ravenbach. Thank you, and thank you, Director, for the presentation. If there are two companies in the Northeast that do this, why did we use sole source instead of it's here in the?
Number one, they work directly with Motorola,
Okay,
and this company takes care of our phone recordings, but not only our phones, but our radio recordings. So if a police officer does a transmission and there is something that needs to be investigated, that transmission also gets recorded
okay,
in addition to phone calls. So this company, we didn't have to add with another company, we would have had to add additional
oh,
software and hardware. With this company, with Eventide, everything that we have is simultaneous with Motorola.
okay, thank you. And we have Motorola next.
Yes.
All right.
Are we good with Eventide?
Um,
And no other questions?
hold on.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions on item number 3? More? No more. Is there a motion? Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Councilor Ravenbach, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed.
Okay.
Okay, now we'll move on to, Madam Clerk, please read item number 4.
Resolution authorizing approval of the following contract award by the Board of Contract and Supply in accordance with section 21-26 B2 of the Code of Ordinances. Motorola Solutions Inc. $511,986.77. Department of Telecommunications.
Okay, please proceed, Brett.
So our Motorola one, as you can see, there are two parts here. There's one for 461, and there's another one for 50,000. The 461 is our normal service fees that we normally get through Motorola. It went up about 7% this year, which is just about on average of what we normally get an increase from Motorola for. The additional 50,000, unfortunately, we have been kicking can down the road many years on our offsites, which handle our antennas that are offsites at 5 sites. We have one at Public Safety, one at Providence College, one at Brown University, one at Hartford Housing, and one at Ripton. And those are all offsites that we have that give us our signal for our radios. Gives us strong signals so that no matter where our firefighters or officers are, or even our Parks Department, Department of Public Works, or any other entities that use our radios, have complete coverage and never had dead zones throughout the city. Unfortunately, a lot of those sites are older with older equipment. This money will help us upgrade our equipment or put new equipment into those sites.
Okay. Again, a sole source.
And again, it's a sole source, and we also piggyback through the state to get MBA pricing so that we get the best pricing possible. Because we piggyback with the state, and state 911 also uses this same feature.
Any questions? Yes, Councilor Engelbaum, thank you.
2 questions. Thank you again for this.
Yes.
One is, in addition to the $50,000 to upgrade the equipment, do we have to pay any like lease fees to use the roofs of some of these private businesses? Like
Brown University, Providence College, RIPTA, and Hartford Housing. Well, Hartford Housing is part of the city, and the Public Safety Garage part of the city. But the other ones all give us space as long as we maintain it, because they get to utilize it too. RIPTA utilizes it for theirs. Brown University uses it for theirs, and Providence College uses it for their public safety teams. So they also get benefits from it, but they do not charge us for that.
Yes, please.
We've been using Motorola for quite some time. How do we, like, in general, how do we feel about that service? And when would we come up to bid for like switching to a different company, or when would we investigate if that's the best option?
So me personally, in the 25 years, almost 25 years I've been with the city, Motorola has been the only company that we've ever used.
Okay.
If you go through probably 90% of the police departments and fire departments throughout the country, it's Motorola.
Okay.
There are others, there are a few other company vendors that would be able to come in. It would be an astronomical cost. We would have to, 5 sites that we have offsite, we would have to put all new equipment into those sites. We would have to get new radios, new repeaters, all the new equipment, the chargers, the antennas, the headsets, all of that equipment is sold Motorola equipment. So that would all have to be changed. It would be painstaking for the change, and it would be extremely costly, unless a company came in and said, we'll give you the equipment if you take out, but that hasn't happened to us yet. We haven't gotten that offer from anyone yet. And Motorola has been a phenomenal partner with us. So,
Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Hey, gentlemen, just one question, is that additional 50,000, is that enough, to do all the upgrades at all the offsites, or should we be expecting, more, funds for upgrades in the upcoming years?
it will be enough for this year, but what we did, we put some grants out this year, infrastructure grants. We are waiting on one now through Senator Reed's office that will take care of long-term fixes on this. This is a short-term for this year. This is to get this year. What happened is we had spare parts in the past few years, and we've exhausted those parts. We're bare bones on our shelves now with the replacement parts, and we don't want to get to the point where something fails at Brown, for example, and we can't replace those parts. So that's where this 50,000 came in for this year to do this year's. We're hopeful that grant will give us some breathing room there. But if not, we may have to come back next year for a little more money.
Thank you.
All right, yes, Brooke.
Just a general question, in terms of your department with the IT department, are there any interaction in terms of needs assessment? Obviously, for these coming years, future planning? You interact?
Now, he is no longer with public safety. Byron is the new person that we work with, who we work closely with Jim Silveria and Byron on any IT and telecommunication collaborations. We work very closely with them. And we have our own in-house IT person also who has been trained by the IT team that works directly in our building. So we always have someone on site, you know.
Is there gonna be any motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Anderson, all in favor? Aye, all opposed. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate
You
it.
take care.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, item number 5.
Resolution authorizing approval of the following contract award by the Board of Contract and Supply in accordance with section 21 to 26 B2 of the Code of Ordinances, Central Florida, Yamaha Inc., $66,483. Department of Public Safety, Police Department.
Yes.
Yes.
You're spending more time with us than.
I do.
And please take your name and title for the record.
Oscar Perez, Chief of Police for the City of Providence.
Thank you so much for coming, Chief. Tell us about Central Florida Yamaha.
Thank you. Yeah, good evening, Madam Chair and honorable members of the council. Yeah, this year respectfully requesting approval for these 2 engines. So just to give you a little history, we are in the Marine unit, we have 2 boats. And both of the boats have been about over 20 years old. The engines are old. We utilize those boats on a daily basis. As you know, the Henderson Bridge is one of the details that we do. Obviously, the Washington Bridge, the rebuilding of the bridge, the demolition of the bridge. On top of that, we do a lot of enforcement on the river, the 135 acres of riverfront that the city has. We are the home of the second largest port in New England. And so I mentioned all that stuff just because of the fact that these boats get used a lot. And so we're requesting to buy from this Central Florida Yamaha company, which actually was the lowest bidder when it was entered. We tried 2 other companies, they were not selected because they were not the lowest bidder. And this company is actually going to be able to provide us on time without disrupting the operations. Another major thing is in the last 3 years, the Marine unit, under the detail, the DOT should be reimbursed us every time we use a boat. And so we've been able to generate with the boats about over $500,000 actually, just on details alone. So it's a revenue unit for us as well, and so it definitely paid for itself. We actually thought about also like rebuilding the engines, but it will cost $3,000 to continue to fix them, which in the long run will be a lot more money. And so that's why we are going with this company and just hoping that we can get this moving.
And I'm sorry, Chief, did you say there was another bid on this? Because I thought this was a sole source.
So I think there was a company in Atlantic outboard and Monahan Marine provided quotes. But this company was the lowest bidder.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just feel bad that you've been sitting here this evening and I'm wondering why this is before us. If it wasn't the sole source. We'll get to the bottom of that.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Take your time.
No problem at all. That's one. It's very much.
Well, okay, well, I'm very supportive. And these are 2 boats you're getting for 60. The boat?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Engine.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we look at the case,
they're very
yeah.
expensive boats.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be nice, but.
That's my next question. I know we're going through a master lease. Are those conversations happening in the city right now in terms of adding a new boat or looking to purchase a new boat? Or I know the prices are probably.
Yeah, no, not this year. It will be, I mean, it's changing. The job is changing. We get a lot of the port actually gets business from ships from all over the world. And so it's busy. I mean, when the LPG tanks have been filled, we usually SIP we'll make sure that we conduct, security, so yeah, but it's not in this year, so but that's something that maybe in the future we will be thinking about. But both boats are pretty old.
Right, yeah.
Yes, Counselor Andujar. I'm sorry, Counselor. Smith.
Sorry, guys. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Colonel. Always good to see you. Sorry, we were monopolizing the time. The quick question I had, so and I think you answered this, but I want to be sure. So it sounds like part of why we need additional motors is we're wearing out the boats by doing things like the Henderson Bridge and the George Washington Bridge and stuff like that. Are we getting reimbursed from YDOT for the, okay,
Yes, so yeah, we can reimburse, we use them, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And as you know, the Henderson Bridge is completed, but the eastbound lanes are still being, the demolition, so we're still using that. And then now with the new rebuild and demolition for Washington Bridge, we'll be using, but yeah, but I don't think he'll reimburse us. We charge about $75 an hour. We can keep ramping that up. And also, each officer, we use 2 officers, they each get charged per hour, and all that money they reimbursed. That's why in the last 3 years, we were able to generate over $500,000, which I think would be there for the city.
Yeah, motion made by Counselor Andujar, seconded by Counselor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, again, we're sorry to
Thank
take
you.
time.
Always a pleasure to see you all. Yeah,
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk. Item number 6.
resolution authorizing approval of the following contract award to amend the path of sidewalk, road, and drainage construction for option year 1 by the Board of Contracting Supply in accordance with section 21 to 26 B5 of the Code of Ordinances. Sidewalk, road, and drainage construction, $250,000. Option year 1, multiple vendors, Department of Public Works.
Okay. I was gonna say, what do we have here? Thank you, welcome back. We're gonna swear you in.
Brian Anderson.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear in the penalty of perjury that the testimony is not complete as the truth? The whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, thank you so much. So we have before us 250,000 multiple vendors for sidewalk, road, and drainage construction with an option, 1-year option.
Well, the option, it's the First Amendment under the option.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I think
Okay,
we were
thank you.
on before the board of contract apply a month or so ago to approve the option. Right there. So the contract ran for 2 years and then 5 years option year 2. So
Okay.
we're an option year 1 since we had First Amendment.
Okay.
The purpose for this amendment is, DPW has a revolving fund, so one is to add that fund, as one of the cap accounts on the blanket contract. And then, under that fund, when we have utilities that perform work in the road, and we may pave that road, they give us a reimbursement, in certain circumstances, because they don't have to do the restoration themselves. Our goal with this request is that we have money in that account for these reimbursements. When they come in and say the Rhode Island Energy will come in and do the restoration, they might be 20 to 200 or so feet short of the next intersection or where the next paving joint is. So we want to be able to use this blanket contract as many times. The utility company's paving contractor is on our list of approved contractors. So we can then do these kind of jump on a utility company project to do small gaps in paving or fix a broken manhole cover for a sewer or little things like that, that otherwise would just be sort of a maintenance headache for the city over time, because we can't require them to extend their paving to the next logical point if their project ended hundreds of feet before that point. So what we'd like to do is have money available to bring those contractors on to get, purchase order with them, so that they, while they're paving the utility, they can extend that paving the necessary distance to go to a logical stopping point. To ease the burden on the city over time.
Okay, is it a cost savings for us at all?
It is a cost savings because they're already going to be there. We usually, many times that we get a little bit better rate, so some of the contractors will work with us to give us the utility company rate. The utility company does
tons and tons of paving. We're out of energy, there's water. So we get a competitive rate, in some cases, we will get a cheaper rate than we can get, it's already mobilized there. And we have a seamless repair, so instead of having us come back and paying more where you end up with 100 or 200 feet. Section of pavement, they just extended that pavement. To make that way. Up until this point, it's been difficult, for us to be able to grab those opportunities to do repair and things. Have to look like it makes sense to the, public.
Questions? Councilor Linderbaum.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. You had mentioned that sometimes we will do the repavement and get paid by the utility, because it's something they would have been doing, but for various reasons, they're not gonna do the repaving themselves, and so we'll do it early past. Can you describe what circumstances we would do the repaving and then get paid back by the utility? And the reason I'm asking is the utility's been like really taking their sweet old time fixing some of the roads that they've tried out in my neighborhood. And I've called them like once a week for many weeks, and would love if we could just have them do it and then they pay us.
Is area you're referring to sort of north of Rochambeau?
Yeah. Oh, also south of Rochambeau.
All
All over near Rochambeau.
Sometimes you get a chance to give me a call, I can walk you through, see if there's some stuff going on there with other utility projects that
Okay.
happen. That I'm just getting information on, so I can give you some more information.
That'd be amazing.
But for the projects that the utility company comes in, or multiple utility companies come in and they decide they're gonna do projects, we look at that project, we don't have a paving project there, but we say for various reasons, we might want to take on that paving, which some curb that's need to be repaired, or there's some drainage deficiencies in the street. We'll take on that paving and say, once we pay, you'll give us a reimbursement of what you would have otherwise paid.
Okay.
Which is typically less than we would pay. But if we instigate or have a project to go pay, and we ask them to do that, and they can get in for us, typically the agreement is they don't give us reimbursement on that because it's our project, and they're only getting in there to help facilitate our project.
And they have to,
Yes.
they have to be paid to the same specifications that we would, right, involved with the same stormwater and drainage cutouts and all. Like
No,
no.
so the utilities are responsible for leaving it, for the larger utility projects, say where a curb to curb repair might come into.
Yeah.
Depending on how much of the street they impact. They will come in and they have to do a 2-inch mill and a 2-inch overlay. They're not responsible for correcting any road deficiencies, that they cause. So that's one of the reasons.
Even if they cause the road
If
deficiency.
they cause the road deficiency, they have to fix it.
Okay.
But if say there was a drainage issue where there was a low spot that got ponded before they came in, they were keeping anything for that, they're not responsible for fixing that low spot. That's where this request actually comes in, to think like that, say there is a drainage that's broken or some deficiency in the road that we want to get fixed, at least we can have some ability to react to that and maybe get some of those fixed, where they won't otherwise be able to. Not, in an ideal world, we'd be able to fix everything before they came in and did their work, because that's what it's. But this is, we're gonna start.
This would be- Thank you, I appreciate it. Can I grab your card before you leave?
As long as I didn't give my last card away. I can always.
Yes. And pro tap.
I just have a question. So this is the revolving fund for those purposes. And it indicates that that the contractors that already have been approved are the ones that are going to do the work.
This is in a case where those are one, they end up overlapping. So there may be cases where as a contractor that is not on our list. If that work were, say, under the construction capital, $20,000, we might be able to react quickly, use this account to get a PO without having to go through a lot of other steps that are necessary in projects over, construction projects over $20,000. So where this comes in, even if it's under 20,000, it's a contract we already have with them.
So instead of getting a PO and just putting some terms and conditions with it, we have the full contract with specifications and everything, so it covers the city a bit more. So it does work out that the contractor is one that's on our list. This is a very nice mechanism to get them on board and have a lot of legal agreements in place that cover both parties.
So with that said, are there any other opportunities for smaller contractors, and particularly minority contractors?
With what the utility companies choose for their contractor, that's depending on who they pick. We're looking at, in this particular case, it's really the, some of the mid-sized contractors that typically work for the largest, you know, under Providence Water, Rhode Island Energy, on the gas side. Typically, you know, Rhode Island, the past several years, participated, they're on our list. Providence Water has used, contractors in Amber in the past, who was on our list. Hartford that they use, Narragansett, they're on the list. As far as, you know, looking for them to, you know, incorporate, minority, businesses and stuff into those contracts, that's something that we're at the mercy of who they have our contract for that job. This is intended to try to have us catch gaps in payment and other things while they're doing that work that they expect their resource. It's you know, by their benefit.
Thank you.
Okay. We have one second. Or a comment.
Greg, thank you, for this information. This is the type of stuff we really need to try to keep exploring to get our projects up and going and trying to be as creative as possible with our limited capacity at times. So I appreciate all the work that your department at DPW does when it comes to our infrastructure. I know you guys are really, really trying their best, and we really appreciate that.
We really do. With that.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Anderball, all in favor? Aye. Aye, all opposed. Okay, thank you so much for everything. Sorry we had you wait so long.
I might be back in your next meeting.
Okay. Yes, Madam Clerk, item number 7.
Resolution authorizing approval of the following contract award by the Board of Contracting Supply in accordance with section 21-26 B2 of the Code of Ordinances, multiple vendors, $235 million, Department of Public Property.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So, Madam Chair, we're joined this evening by representatives of the Providence School Department and Rhode Island Health Education. Really so kind and well, maybe sworn in.
Please. Yes, yes.
Please raise your right hand. We swear and affirm to the that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And please make your names for the record.
Some that on Sax got monitoring.
Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for sitting through the earlier items. I certainly appreciate you coming. We, as you know, this, well, you may not know, but the committee knows that we had addressed this item at a prior meeting and didn't have anyone from RIDE or PPSB, and so we felt that we weren't able to act on the resolution. So thank you for coming tonight, and we have been through this a bit, but we're gonna go ahead and have you present tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So,
Can you hold on for 1 minute? I'm so sorry. We're marking our two exhibits.
Sure.
So sorry. We are gonna mark the May 28, 2024 letter from the Department of Education as number 2. We have a motion. Okay, motion made by Councilor Anderbach, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? And now we're going to move to the presentations. Our call for presentation will be that as exhibit 3. So motion made by Councilor Anderbach, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you, Chief, for doing it.
well, Madam Chair, thank you for that introduction. I was about to say the same thing last week. We were here before the committee, and Already had additional questions and concerns, and we had respectfully requested that we move to this evening. And so joining us this evening, not only the Providence School District, but Mr. Moreno, who was the chief of operations and Ryan, particularly involved in school funding, the school building authority. So if you would be so kind, Mr. Moreno has a presentation. He is clearly the expert in this situation.
We are very eager to hear Mr. Yeah, what the presentation you have tonight. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'll start with the letter, it's approved yesterday. In Monson Elementary and Secondary Education, so congratulations. $466 million of the Providence projects are eligible to receive reimbursement from the state of Rhode Island of 91%, which is upwards of $430 million for the city of Providence. The House and the Senate have also passed the enabling acts. The Senate is in concurrence to mirror the language of the House, which would allow this question to go to voters in November. Which is in alignment with the resolution that was passed by the City Council in November for this funding. We also have a matter which we'll cover in the presentation with an energy sharing agreement with the district to help cover the city's debt service, so that this funding won't cost Providence taxpayers, which is a very starting with the presentation. I think it's useful to do context, and I believe this presentation answers some of the questions that were asked last week. But the goal of everyone here at this table, the city council, the district, and the state, we have the same goal. We want your students and our students, which are one, to attend or at least have access to learning in school. Something that's hasn't been possible in the city of Providence, in the history of Providence. But we are on pace by 2030 to have that opportunity. 100% of your kids having that. What's even from a financial perspective, really unique is on both the deadlines is if we hit certain milestones and certain incentives that begin to expire in July, the state will pay 91% of this. If you go to the pie chart and say on page 4, we're actually looking now at $1 billion plan for Providence schools. That includes 3 bonds that have already been approved by Providence voters. Over $106 million in statewide bonds that we approved and now have been distributed to Providence, as well as a $400 million bond that will be presented to voters this November. In totality, over $900 million will be funded by the state of Rhode Island. We have $30 million that has been funded through energy savings, which we'll get to in a minute, and then the city share would be approximately $60 million. Or $4.2 billion on an annual basis to fund $1 billion of school construction projects. In order to make the math work, which is why the timing is critical, these contracts need to be in place by June 30th, 2024. On page 5, we show the debt impact, which is really unique here. And I want to share that this is only possible when you have someone who's given 35 years of their life in the city of Providence, American Treaty, and its knowledge in Neverfall, to have a structure here where you can issue $1 billion in school construction debt and pay less than you're paying right now. And that's what it's actually unbelievable. If you look at the chart, red is debt that is expiring, and the reason this works is because the debt that is coming off your books either receive no reimbursement or much lower rate, being replaced by debt that gets 91% reimbursement from the state. You can fund $1 billion of school construction projects. You can fund over $300 million in CIP, and you still have wiggle room for other things that may be unforeseen. But from a debt perspective, you're actually going to be paying less than you're paying this fiscal year for $1 billion of projects. On slide 6, this is the first of its kind agreement, and I suspect many districts and municipalities will pursue this in the future. What happens with these energy projects in these schools is that the savings aren't necessarily shared. So if there's a net zero building in Providence, the district keeps the savings, even though it's a city bond paying for it. What was passed in your resolution back in November requires the district to enter an agreement to share any energy savings that come of these new buildings with the city to help pay for the debt. Just this past year, and this also aligns with other goals of the city council. You have 3 new buildings that open, all with electric power. No fossil fuels or funding 3 new schools. You also won 2 Green Ribbon School Awards just last month, actually. So we're already headed in that direction, and this is in line with with other ordinances that you passed, but this is key, and I know other cities have already expressed interest in seeing what the final product here, because they also want to share these savings, which I think makes a lot of sense to do so. Slide 7, as we get to phases 2 and 3, the reason they have been lumped together is because there likely will be just one bond issuance, even though you have multiple voter approvals that have funded this, as well as multiple pay-as-you-go fundings. It makes more sense economically to have one bond issuance, so you're not paying for underwriters and attorneys 3 and 4 times, and you can do it one time. So these projects share very similar timelines. The timeline for this, which we'll get into in the very last slide, but in essence, the city will begin its application to RIBAC in June, which allows the money to arrive in August so that this work can continue. At the moment, you do have access to pay-as-you-go funding that is available through RIBAC to begin paying for the design and pre-construction services for these projects. Again, the totality of this is $350 million in state aid. If we're looking at just the bonuses, so for the 3 projects that are scheduled, hopefully tonight for a vote, just the bonuses that were proven before June 30th are worth $35 million to the city of Providence. Phase 4, which was approved yesterday by RIDE, is $465 million. The reason there's a difference is that $400 million is bond funded subject to voter approval. The rest is either through a combination of a revolving fund the city council approved in 2021 and or bond premiums, which will be available upon each issuance based on market conditions. We're looking at 10% of each issuance. So if you sell, let's say another 600 or 700 million in bonds, we're looking at upwards of $70 million in premium, which would help cover these projects and potentially other projects that may come forward. One of the other uses for premium, which Chief Insigne does a great job with, is it'll use to cover some debt service payments. So the way the state system works is you issue a bond and the state won't begin reimbursement until the project completes, which means in many cases you have to pay the debt service 100% until the project completes. With this premium, it can be used to cover a year or 2 years of debt service like was done in 2021. So it doesn't cost Providence taxpayers anything, and then the payments align the moment the project completes, and the state reimbursement arrives with that. On slide 9, this is just a recap of the priorities that have been guiding this $1 billion plan. Since 2021, we have moved away from the Band-Aid approach, which has never worked in any community, anywhere in the nation, with bigger projects that are going to be here 50+ years. We are focusing on a pre-K 8 model, which there's a slide coming up on that, and building where families are. On slide 10, and I think one of the questions last week was why the pre-K model. There's a variety of reasons. The first one is performance, that based on national data, students in pre-K schools do better on assessments and future earnings than students in middle schools. Boston Public Schools just this past February voted to get rid of their last middle school. They have no middle schools. They either have K6, K8, or 7-12, or some combination thereof. Other districts nationally are doing the same. Many of the private schools and public schools also do a pre-K model because of the benefits of this not approach. In terms of slide 11, in terms of engagement, announcing these plans, over the last 2 years, there have been over 66 meetings, public meetings, highlighting this plan. In just the last year alone, there have been 25 meetings where we've discussed the pre-K model and transition to that. In terms of the projects in just phases 2 and 3, there have been 11 individual meetings at these communities. Once projects are approved, we continue to add meetings at those schools in the out years. I also looked up the earliest reference to pre-K in any public meeting was November of 21, so almost 3 years ago. We do have that. Just 2 last slides. So next steps. So there's a timeline here, a very narrow timeline to achieve all these bonuses. The first is tonight would be the phase 3 project, which there's 3 before you. The second one are the phase 4 projects. These projects were approved by RIDE yesterday. However, the city's project manager bid them out. I have the date here on April 8th, with bids coming in on May 6th. These will likely make its way towards you by the end of June. Ideally, we would hit your normal structure. It is up to you if you consider a special meeting, but the difference between approving in June and approving in July for those projects is $60 million. So that is for your consideration. I would recommend that it's possible that if it's time to accommodate that, but there's a hard date in state law that we would get before to make the bonus if possible. Step 2, which Hilltop Security is the financial advisor for the city, and Larry Mancini have already started to assemble the application to RIBEX, and RIBEX is the entity that issues bonds for school projects, because this is the mechanism that allows them to get reimbursed for principal and interest. So in some ways, it doesn't even matter what the interest rate is, because 91% of it is covered by the state of Providence. We have to, in July 15th, which we have already provided the paperwork to the city, is to complete the housing inform to substantiate the projects started. Tomorrow, in concurrence, the Senate will pass the House's version, even though they've already passed a version on your amended legislation. We have sent a draft MOU to the administration to hammer out the energy sharing portion here, which is a requirement of the resolution back in November. And then this would allow the vote to go before the citizens of Providence to hopefully approve this money in November. And then all $1 billion would have all local approvals and state approvals. And if we get to slide 13, the benefits, a recap of the $1 billion plan, over $900 million of state aid, not including interest reimbursement, which would likely add almost $500 million of state aid, pre-K classrooms throughout the city, including a center at the new MLK. Continues to allow opportunities for community engagement with phase 3 projects, which you're considering tonight, per the schedule provided by Downs. Allows from June 2024 through December, further opportunities for community engagement once the new vendor is picked. So we haven't had that, the vendor for any of these hasn't been selected. So we've listened to ideas that the community wants, but once we have the vendor, then those can be incorporated into the design document. Ultimately construction, and then again allows us to have the goal of 100% of your students with access to new materials.
This is the best. I'll just pick out some other questions. I guess my first question is, I think there's no one here that doesn't support new buildings for our students. I think we've all been very supportive. So my question to you is, why this is so last minute? So why does it feel so last minute that we have to? I understand that the reimbursement then, why didn't we start earlier? I guess is my question on this whole process.
Sure. So this was shared. There's a couple of phases. So we'll do the phase 3 first, which are the ones before you today. So those projects weren't approved by RIDE until December 19th, 2023. At the date, those were put out to bid. It is January 29th. They were put out to bid by Public Providence. The bids received March 25th. The Enabling Act that will fund a portion of these projects wasn't approved until last week. So the way it naturally come out, we haven't been able to even authorize those until that act was approved. That's because historically the city of Providence will go to voters first and then the General Assembly to allow the bond to actually get reimbursement. Most communities do the reverse. With the $400 million bond, it's actually following the traditional path where the Assembly says this is eligible for reimbursement and the voters say we want it. The last 3 bonds for Providence, the voters have approved it, but there's no guarantee that the General Assembly will say it's eligible for reimbursement. So from a timing perspective, that's been on track. When we, and I have it here, the resolution approved in November by the City Council references the date of June 30th. And at that time, we had mentioned that because the General Assembly did a 6-month extension to the bonuses, this became a possibility for $400 million, which is why we're racing against the clock. This wasn't a possibility a few months ago. So we're trying to hit that deadline to get these all available to you. That's the reason why we are here today.
Is this remind me, is this a one-time opportunity for the additional bonus?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes, please.
Mr. Graham, first of all, to the November date, you may recall, if I'm not mistaken, it was your question said, will the energy sharing agreement be an executed agreement for any provision for borrowing or authorization? We had said to you then, and provided the money, yes. and to the credit of the proper school district and RIDE, working it out with the administration, that is a bona fide component of this entire process, thereby making the $400 million bond virtually no payment required by city taxpayers.
Okay, and thank you for reminding me of that, because that was going to be my next question. So, the MOU is going to be executed when?
Again, they're working on the final details of today and before this week is over, but
And will we be seeing that?
yes, you will.
All right, we don't open it up for questions. Yes, not for well, thank you, and thank you, that was really helpful. So you have pre-answered a lot of questions, yeah, well, from last week, but, just to make sure I understand what you're saying, and then I have a question that comes after. So the first thing is a statement with a yes, and then there'll be a real question after, if that's okay. Sure. My understanding from the timeline on page 12 is that what needs to be, because I think one of the things we were confused about last time is like what action needed to be voted on to get the 91%. Like the council and secretary of education, was it our final vote, was it the full council's vote, like who needed to vote? So my understanding is that it's, we need to vote, but the full council need to vote on the actual contracts by June 30.
Yeah, so the F-114 form that we referenced collects a bunch of these documents, and you're just one component of documents starting. We have your enabling app submitted, we can get that online. We have the RIDE approval, we have stage 2 approval, so it's a combination of all state and local approvals documenting that these have started. In order to document this piece, we could ask for an RFP to finish it. We have information both of those were issued. And then we're leaving it up to the entity, this is for any district, whether you want to provide signed contract, notice to proceed, an award, not the city council, whatever documents that you started will be accepted.
Oh, okay. And so we proceed with the, split the contracts tonight. I think one of the questions we had last time is like, these are pretty, large and unspecific at this point. And there was a question of like, whether these can change as we like, know, like, for example, the, Mount Pleasant. I think there's still a lot of questions about what's actually going to happen at Mount Pleasant. So if we award the contract now, it's not locking us into any specific paths. Is the question.
So these are all design build contracts, which is a model that many other communities are doing. What it does is it has an architect and contractor work together. It sets a non to exceed number, and then based on a variety of inputs, what's the most cost effective, like that'll still be played out. In the schedule provided by Downs, it's still over 6 months more to figure out what is the most cost effective option for all 3 of the projects, actually. We just recently, when Socket awarded an $80 million contract, Lincoln itself in the same vein where the teams work together within the budget to come up with the most cost effective solution. So it's still moving for that. There's nothing that says if we prove this, they're gonna knock the whole thing down with it. That's still TBD, because whatever is, again, the most cost effective, the most bang for your buck is what we're doing.
Okay. Can I just do a follow up on that one question? Are we going to see it here again? I mean, in terms of the details, of more details on these bids.
Invite us back, we'd be happy to share it. So normally, and I don't mean that, I'm serious, if you invite us to come, but typically these discussions are at a building committee, where I believe there's other members who are invited, I think some of you get emails. That is typically for most communities around the state where the heavy details done. But there's nothing to say that we couldn't come back here and share those details. We absolutely put in our willing to do that. That's something we need to provide.
So you on that?
I'm on it.
Yeah,
Sue's on it.
it needs spirit finance. Okay, you need school committee. The building committee, yeah, I get them. Okay. All right. Anything else down?
Madam Chair, I'm a member of that committee along with the director of public property, and unfortunately, during the height of budget season, council from the end of our strike, there is always a conflict on the Tuesday evening, we know the student, but Mr. Carolina who is here, and Mr. Scott, are very active participants and members of that committee, and we are fully informed by way of minutes, and when a necessary vote to be taken for action, we work and make an arrangement to accommodate that vote, so it can be in another evening if necessary.
Yes, reported, something I should know the don't, like, can I watch this at the fact, or are they only in person?
The meeting is recorded.
Okay, great. Okay, I'll start watching this after the fact. I'm just always here, so I'm not there. It's one person, but. Okay. Yes, other questions? Yes, please. And I guess maybe this might be a question from the 400 comes before us, since we kind of talked about it once. How can we approve, maybe this question would be this answer, how can we approve contracts for the 400 million if it hasn't gone to the voters to fall?
So we pledged the city's authority based on bonding capacity, and we have one, in fact, actually on requests from last meeting, we can furnish to the general order today. We complete schedule with the city's debt service, not just the show master lease, but the entire debt service. As I had reported last evening, the debt service payment already includes the debt thus far, including future projects, including the 400 million, will not exceed the current base of 73 million. And Mr. Craner's point at the time, it will actually drop because of other bond issues falling off. And so we will pledge the capacity of bond available.
And thank you for your creativity.
Thank you.
And your financial creativity. Yeah, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you so much, guys. It's super helpful. My first question, in terms of the June 30th deadline, is that something that RIDE sets or is that the General Assembly? General Assembly. So I know there was conversations to extend it, which I guess will probably go against their calendar, their session calendar. Because I think that would be most helpful, not just for Providence, but I think someone mentioned last week that a lot of communities that do are contractor Daff and Downs. I think you mentioned that a lot of communities are in similar boats. So I guess with that being said, I think it's critical that we start planning phase 4 ASAP. I think we're gonna plan to get a couple of special meetings in June. I think it's critical that we do that. My next question was gonna be, so have we bonded out for phase 2 and 3, or we have received voter approval in 2020 and 2022 of 125 million and 104 million. That authority in this city has received special act financing approval by the state of Rhode Island through Mr. Craner's efforts and not that of our the government team. We were successful in getting the $125 million bond issue approved just we have 2 years ago. That special act cleared, so the general assembly, which will qualify now for that 91% reimbursement. So we have the bonding authority. We have not yet drawn down any bonds. So no construction of the projects in phase 2 or 3.
There was a construction from prior bond issue that we paid.
Up to date, there's been pay-as-we-go funding available in the state award from the statewide bond. That's been funding us so far. So that it's been primarily just for design fees, so it's been fine. A lot of the heavy construction begins in the fall, which is why it's critical to get paperwork in, which so money will arrive in August for them beginning to pay contractors in the fall. But today, the work's been paid for by the statewide bond, and Providence has now paid to me out the again, $160 million is what in the state of Providence.
So just for my own clarity, so from this future bond or this bond that hopefully we take out in the fall, is any of that money going to be used to pay what's being spent right now?
Portion of it will be
Like it could be used for phase
3.
Can use for phase 2 or 3,
But the bond is paid.
well, so they're selling a bond this August or September, which will be to fund phases 2 and 3, which have been approved by voters. Then you have a bond vote in November. That bond will be sold in future years. At some point, we have this whole schedule we've mapped out. Maybe in 2 years, we'll start to draw down that 400 million. That's not needed now because those projects still have to be designed and bid. And you don't want to pay interest too soon on that money because the state will reimburse it until you're done. So we try to only issue money as needed because otherwise you make payments with no state aid. That doesn't.
Question on that. So the 235 million that we have before us this evening, you're saying that we don't actually have the funding yet for that.
We have bond capacity approved by the voters for $265 million bond capacity. We have not drawn down, we have not underwritten or issued the bond as vision. That's going to happen within the next 90 days.
Okay, and so in that regard, are we violating our, I guess it's a question for you, I'm trying to police you, do we need to condition our approval of this, because under the section 21-26, we're not supposed to be making any contracts for purchases unless there's sufficient appropriation for the purpose of it.
I think that, as our CFO pointed out, the contracts themselves are going to be, I think this is what you're saying, are going to be contingent upon the approval in November, more or less.
Yeah, so the appropriation is the voters would approve that funding. You would be, these contracts are going to get funded by something that's already been approved by voters, just a matter of, it's a mechanism to apply for it. If you apply too soon, you start paying interest and go.
Okay, thank you.
So with that in mind, I think making the vote clear it would be ideal to have clarity there, just so that all parties who are looking at the public record understand the position of the committee and eventually the council.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
It does, no, I have what I need, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Chairman, for that question, because I mean, that was kind of one of my main questions last meeting was how are we approving? Or are we opening up ourselves up to any liability, I guess, if we sign contracts and then don't have the funding for it for whatever reason?
I think that the contract language is going to be clear. If there's this additional trigger that needs to happen before payments can be expected by the contractor.
If I can provide further clarification. The authority granted by the voters has already been provided. Two separate general elections equaling $265 million. That authority is a bona fide authority. The timing of the issuing debt against the authority is now in the planning stages. And much of it had to culminate with certain approvals before this committee of those contracts that can go forward. Approval of the General Assembly, the right agreement was approved just yesterday. The culmination of all those aspects of it are now peaking with the notion that we can now successfully go forward. We can request proposals for underwriting, and that starts the process to issue bonds. We generally do not issue bonds any sooner than the start of the fiscal year to gain the advantage of a 4 years minimum debt service repayment. We always look at the best market conditions, but as Mr. Grant pointed out, given these conditions, we're looking at literally 91% reimbursement, even on these bonds, in addition to what we will do much later after voter approval this November, hopefully 400 million. But before you is given 235 million proposed spending will be covered sufficient. Right, the two bonds which is already authorized by voters, we have not yet drawn down against our vision.
So in your opinion, you're not legal counsel. I understand your position. Is there a way of amending the resolution so that is?
I would be hard pressed to say that you, I know Ms. Grandy has been our bond counsel on that and has advised often that the authority granted by the voters is sufficient to carry forward a bond. We, in the truth being told, we would not be able to bond or issue bonds other than the purpose of the two voter agreements.
Okay, and the only reason I'm hesitating, thank you very much, solicitor, for offering your opinion. I also get very nervous when we start changing language on resolutions that are anything to do with bonds. Because we don't have bond counsel here, and I don't want to jeopardize that, but I also try to provide, make sure that any action we take is in accordance with our authority. So, anyway, I'm going to be, but unless my counselors a strong.
Definitely leaning on some of Senior's expertise here. Thank you very much. I appreciate this as honest as possible. My last question.
Yes, please.
I know phase 4 isn't in front of us, but there is projects listed on here, and I'm noticing that Georgia West Elementary is not listed on there, and that hasn't been upgraded in any of the phases. So, yeah.
So for now, that's part covered under the revolving funds, and you still have a 2019 approval. Which is with and requested extension, so there's some approval already for this. There's also. What we're also. Limited by cash, there might be a phase 5 in 2 years, if money frees up, if there's a need for other projects there. There might be opportunities to do more, we've maxed out what is available, but there are approvals in 2019 still available for wet. Reservoir, for example, is not here, but it's covered under 2019. Perhaps in FY 26, maybe we do phase 5 for those, but we're limited to the capacities that are available, and then in the swim space, we can't do every project at once. In some ways, like it's one that, sorry about the stage, because we don't do so much work at a time. That if there's an appetite to do something larger there, you absolutely.
Oh, so just for clarity, because I feel like it's been told to us for a little bit of time now that by doing phase 4, it would put all of our children in new or like new school buildings. Is not that true then?
So it gives, so you will have 20,000 new seats. This is also, you will have 17,000 students. If you want to have 23,000. Add more students. But you will have, every student will have the option, now doesn't mean everyone will choose. You will have, there'll be 20,000 new seats available in all these projects. If George West will not be considered even unless we do phase 5. But students can choose to go to the building, they can choose there, but they always have the option to choose. An option that hasn't been available. You will have, again, 20,000 new seats. You will have 17,000 students. You can add more seats. That will just take a future bond and future approvals, but it's certainly possible. But again, we would, at the timing, we can't do them all now. And we've not, like, if the goal is to stay within the 73 million, we are here. If there's an appetite to do more, you can absolutely put more bond questions in front of those.
A quick follow-up on Councilor Sanchez's question, which may or may not be relevant, but just to ask for it out loud. The school's not on this list to be slated to be new or like new. Are there plans for you to close the buildings?
No, there's no plans to close anything. These projects, many of the phase 4 will take 5 years to complete. The state won't even be involved at that point. And that would be here, whether it's phase 5, it's gotta be something. You do phase 5 and you fix them, you put more bond money, or you make some choice, but the intent here is to provide you. You will have 23,000 seats at the time, whether you want to replace the other ones with new buildings. Stage will, obviously, will do stage 1, stage 2, and the process again, or if you choose. It's very long.
Clarify, there's 20,000 new or like new seats in the buildings, and then plus the addition, I just want to make sure I'm doing the math right, plus the buildings that aren't touched, we'll have 23,000 seats total.
Correct.
Okay.
And the current.
For 17,000.
Current enrollment
We'll get to
is
that.
19,500, which 20 years ago, you had 8,042 more students than now. You project to lose 500 students per year through 2029, so you'll have just under 17. Now, again, if the goal is that people will.
We want to bring
That's
them in.
right, that's perhaps phase 5 might be on November 26th.
Yeah.
About, and we will start those. But again, the other challenge is swing space. Even if we can't even start with all of us.
Yeah, no, that's.
We're doing, like, we're trying to do jigsaw puzzle to find the fastest way. We're getting really creative. But some of these will wait 3-4 years even to get there. We just can't start them all because there's no way to get it. But we're doing our best to shave as much time from that as possible.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Do you have any motion? Motion to approve made by Councilor Anderblass, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? All opposed. decrease the economies, and now this is unclear clarity around it. Because that was not a-
Doing all that.
Very much. And so with that, I think we have a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Councilor Iveyne, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye. All opposed.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Are you guys have too long? Yeah. Yeah.